Now, when he hears the fire bell chime, our next guest is there on time, putting on his coat and hat in less than 7 seconds flat. He's always on the scene, our next guest, and his engine's bright and clean, our next guest. You cannot ignore our next guest is the hero next door. Fathers of young children, you know what I'm doing. Please welcome on stage the Chief Fire Officer for the Gibraltar Fire and Rescue Service, Colin Ramirez.
Wow, what an intro. Hope I live up to expectations. Just off script, just very quickly, because I'm really proud of Colin for coming on the stage and being shown such courage to talk about the things he spoke about. Moving on, all they do is play volleyball. I'd like to get some involvement from the audience, and please raise your hands if at some point in your lives you've thought, heard, or said this. Be honest. Wow. I wasn't counting on so much honesty, but let's move on. And I'll try and set the tone. I'm not going to try to convince you in any way. I'm simply going to show you a bit more of what we do apart from play volleyball. Okay, so who I am. Some of you in the audience, I think, are going to like a bit of this slide. I am someone who had a childhood dream. And I'm looking at the screen because this one doesn't seem to be working, so please excuse me for that. I had a childhood dream. I've always wanted to be a footballer. Many of you in the audience know that already. It wasn't to be, at least not to the level that I wanted to play at. Many of you don't know, but I had a very successful spell in banking. I worked for BCCI and that disappeared. I'm finished yet. I worked for Banesto, that disappeared. And I worked for Newcastle Building Society, that's no longer in Gibraltar. So it's a good thing that I changed careers. 23 years ago, I joined the fire service. Enjoyed every single minute of it and passionate about my job for all those 23 years. Not just because I like the job itself, but it means a lot to serve those in need. And every time we go out is exactly that, to help those people in need. My last stint in operations was Station Officer Blue Watch. Great bunch of officers, to be perfectly honest, learned so much from them. And they are part of the reason why I am where I am today. I like to have a bit of fun still with the crews, like to have a coffee. I like to sit back and watch the banter. It brings so much memories, brings back so much memories. 3 years in the post, Chief Fire Officer, immense privilege. I never thought I'd get to this, to where I am now. And many people say that it's a lonely place at the top. As I stand here today, I can say that I don't feel that. I feel supported. That can change tomorrow. Life is unpredictable, especially in the fire service. But as I stand here today before you guys, I don't feel alone at all. I've got a great team behind us, 84 people who support me and look out for you guys as well, for the community. Second in command for 30 years at home to Sharon. My status got a big knock when our two favorite people were born 25 and 20 years ago, Matthew and Emma. And only 2 years ago became the invisible man at home when she came along. So it's amazing to just walk unnoticed at home, to be honest. But over to the serious stuff. Gibraltar Fire and Rescue Service is a government department. And we form part, apart from being a government department, we form part of a wider UK Fire and Rescue Service family as well. So we form part of a wider framework. Our standard operational procedures follow national operational guidance in UK, so we don't just make them up. Everything is structured, everything we do is structured, even the time that we take to deploy, that is all written down in policy as well. So we do adapt them to our resources, but that's what every single fire service does. There's a guidance, and then you adapt to that. So who are we, really? Many times we tend to forget that emergency services are part and parcel of the community. Sometimes we talk about emergency services and the community like we're from another planet, but we're not. We are your relatives, we are your friends, and we form part of that. We are the community, a representation of that. We are individuals, a group of individuals that have chosen this career path to serve. And in doing so, a lot of the times, they have to risk their lives in doing that. And there is a self-expectation when you join the service that you may have to do that. Only last week, we lost a colleague in Scotland, sadly. And those are the kinds of risks that we are also exposed to. We don't live in a bubble in Gibraltar. So what does it mean to be in the fire service? Right, it means being part of a team, being part of a family, and I'm not even going to try to explain what that really means to a firefighter, because we get so close, there's such a bond created, and something that we can't really put into words, to be honest, but it doesn't stop in Gibraltar. It's a global thing. It's a global bond, and I felt the passing of a colleague in Scotland as much as anybody else in the fire service across the world. It means trust, putting your life in the hands of a colleague. And I think that picture there says it all. This man's life is in his hands. And to have that level of trust in a colleague, that's something that you cannot train for. It's something that is just in you. It means being prepared for the worst possible scenario and having the composure to think, take your time to think, and find solutions. It means knowing what the risk is, understanding it, recognizing it, and still have the courage to push on. Still have the courage to say, I have to go in because there's savable life. And it's at times giving more importance to the life inside a building than to your own. And that's what it means. And it means the same in Gibraltar as it does anywhere else. And it means working with and for the community at whatever level. Whether you're in fire safety, whether you're a dispatcher, whether you're doing community awareness, whether you're a mechanic at the GFRS, everyone has the same aim. The ultimate beneficiary of all the work that we do is the community. It's a big word in the fire service. I'm sure you've all heard about a jack of all trades is a master of none. And I came across this saying, but oftentimes better than a master of just one. My question to you is, can we afford to be anything less than a master of all? Why? We're isolated in Gibraltar. We're a peninsula, but in fire service terms, we're very much an island. We're on our own. There's just us and our friends and colleagues from the Airport Fire and Rescue Service. But even then, we don't have the resources that other countries have. And we cannot have. It's not about the numbers. It's about us being more resilient. That's what it's about. So what do we do, really? So simple. One word, 4 letters. We wait. And this is the ugly part about this job at times. We wait for something to go wrong, unfortunately. And that's when we react. And when I said everything's written down, everything is written down. Within 80 seconds, we have to be out the door. So our officers leave at 7:30 in the morning from home, say goodbye to their loved ones, to come into shift, or they leave at 4:30 to come into the night shift, on the self-expectation that they might have to risk their lives on that day. And that's the ugly bit. They know that. But still, you have to move on. You have to push on. So what are the thought processes? I'm going to read this. I'm not a quick reader, but I'm going to try and read it as quick as possible because it just gives you an idea of what an incident commander is thinking and what a firefighter is thinking when they're on the way. So the thought process is the nature of incident. Are the persons reported? How many? You're thinking, does this change the dynamics of the incident, the dynamics of your thoughts? To how much risk will I have to expose my guys as we go in? Risks involved, gas cylinders, signs of collapse, signs of backdraft. Do I have enough resources? Do I have enough equipment? Will I need any more? Do I need a recall? Will there be any other incidents simultaneous to that one that we cannot respond to? So all these are things that go on in your mind as you are traveling to the incident. It's not just about getting your hose out but pardon the expression. I'm so sorry. I'm pouring water on a fire. It's a lot more complicated than that. I'm sorry if there's kids around, but I'll move down to the last point before I put my leg in it again. One of the most important things that in our job is to then look back at the incident and learn from it. That is one of the most important things. And that is something that will help us improve and develop as a fire service, mature as a fire service. But if we don't learn, a life without learning is a life wasted. So that is it. Our aim, very simple again, excellence. Many say that excellence is a measure of performance, and I agree with that as well. For me, it's more of a process. It's an ongoing process. We need to learn, we need to implement changes, and we need to develop our competences. We need to be humble enough to say we don't always get it right, and there's always room for improvement. That is what excellence is for me. It's not just one meaning, one word. For me, it's a process. But that's a personal opinion. I say we don't always have to agree. An interesting statistic for many. We tend to be compared to UK. We tend to be compared to the US, Chicago Fire. Maybe some of you have seen the series. I've gone conservative and compared us to London. London has 9 million citizens, over 4,500 firefighters, more than the whole of Scotland put together. Over 100 stations, 1,500 calls a year per station on average. This is Gibraltar for you. Gibraltar Fire and Rescue Service. It just puts things into perspective. I haven't added the Airport Fire and Rescue Service because I've done one for one. But only in one incident, the tragic incident at Grenfell Tower, London had 200 firefighters attend and 40 fire appliances. When I say fire appliances, I mean fire engines for those of you who wouldn't know. We have 12 firefighters on duty. So it just puts into perspective the challenges that we're up against and why my colleagues in UK often ask me, how do you sleep at night? My answer is very simple, like a baby. My wife knows that. But why? Because I trust every single one of our people. I trust that they will stop at nothing to resolve any situation. And that is an element of trust that doesn't come by too easy. Gibraltar, I said hidden goodies, not in a funny way at all, but hidden because we tend to walk around. We see everything's nice in Gibraltar and still a very safe place to live in, safe place to raise a family. But every single thing that you see around you, we see differently, in a sense. We see the risks, we see the challenges that it can pose, whether it's a building, or whether it's an airport, or whether it's a cave. We always see what challenge it can pose to our guys. And together with the Airport Fire and Rescue Service, of course, we try to do everything that we can, or everything in our power, to mitigate those risks. People say that not many incidents happen in Gibraltar, but they do. And we're exposed to those risks as well. Lucky escapes, or quick response. This is a list of challenges as well. It's a short one. Believe me, it's a short one. Every single one of those poses risk. But the biggest challenge we have is complacency. And this is the cause of so many firefighter injuries, so many firefighter fatalities across the world. We cannot afford to relax. We cannot afford to lower our guard. That's one of the most dangerous things that we encounter in the fire service. And that is that element of complacency that kicks in when we relax, especially towards the end of an incident, when you tend to relax, and that's when accidents can happen. Look at the next video and see how relaxed these firefighters enter this property. That's the kind of risk that we can be exposed to as well if we don't read the signs. What the smoke is telling you when you enter a property. Those are the kinds of things that can happen. This happened in the flats right above my parents' house in Moorish Castle Estate. We can be faced by temperatures in excess of 600 Celsius. Water boils at 100. Try sticking your finger in for 1 second. The firefighter wasn't injured. Thankfully, he was alert enough to read the signs. Otherwise, I would have been standing here telling a different story. And that's in Gibraltar. Had something gone wrong, whose fault is it? That's me. Does anyone know where this comes from? That's all? The hopper, Bug's Life. It's funny, I know it's funny, but it's so true as well. I don't want the praise. The praise goes to those on the front line because they are doing the hard work. But when things go wrong, you have to take full responsibility.
Firefighters, what do they make? They make holding your hand seem like the biggest thing in the world when they're cutting you out of a car. They can make 5 minutes seem like a lifetime when they go in a burning house to save your family. They make those annoying sirens seem like angels when you need them. They make themselves jump at the chance to risk their lives to save someone they've never met. Today, they could make the ultimate sacrifice to save your life. They make a difference. What do you make?
It's not just about the volleyball. Is that really all we do? You be the judge of that. Thank you for listening.